Hey, yo, it's me, Pops Van Marmalade, and you're watching the Comics-Related Madness Network. So come get some. CromCon. CromCon.
Your favorite podcast, it's Critical Plus.
Hey, we want to shout out to our sponsors, Daytona Beach Comic Con. If you are a fan of comic books, if you're a fan of comic book conventions, and if you like meeting comic book creators and getting comics and comic-related stuff, then you need to make your plans to attend Daytona Beach Comic Con. This year's show is September 9th and 10th. Silverline will be there, so you should make your plans to be there too. We'll see you there. If you like comics and find yourself in the Orlando, Florida area, doesn't everyone come to Orlando at some point in time to see the House of Mouse? But when you're here, you need to make it a point to visit Coliseum of Comics, especially the one on East Colonial Drive. They carry Silverline comics, even a limited edition Coliseum of Comics version of our comics. So, when you go, be sure to ask for Silverline Comics and tell them we sent you. OCD stands for Orlando Collector Deviants. OCD, Steve and Trish. They're a family of geeks who promote geek things, particularly those around the Orlando, Florida area. They're big supporters of Silverline, and we think you should be supporters of theirs too. Go give them some love. If you are an independent comic book maker and you need to get your independent comics made, you need to look no further than Kablam! Kablam Digital Printing. They print our books, and they do a bang-up job. They're not only trusted by Silverline, but many, many independent comic book makers. Head on over to kablam.com and see for yourself just how easy it is to have your comic printed by them. And tell them Silverline sent you.
Hi, this is Tim TK, host of That Silverline Show on Tuesday. Join us at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Tuesday night as we discuss pop culture and the joys of making comics.
Hi, I'm Roland Mann, and I host Silverline's Silver Sunday. Join me every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern as we make mine Silverline.
We're here.
Dean,
Dean, you're muted.
you're muted.
We can't hear you.
He's talking away.
No. Nope, I don't know. Let me see.
So welcome to Wednesday Wham.
Yeah, I know. Here, hold on, Dean. I'm gonna remove.
As Dean works out his audio problems.
Yeah. Dean.
We have a special guest star tonight. Welcome, Roland Mann.
Hello, everyone. I saw Dean's topic, and I'm like, ooh, that sounds pretty interesting. This is Wednesday, November 10th. Dean, do you have volume now, or do you have audio now?
Testing.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yay!
Am I good to go? Let's try
Yes.
this one more time here. This is Silverline Wednesday Wham with all the Whammers, including our fearless leader, Roland Mann. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a special night tonight. But before we get started, I want to thank our sponsor, the Daytona Beach Comic Convention. And I want to thank everybody for joining us. We've got a special show tonight called Behind the Scenes, where we're going to talk about some secret Silverline material, maybe show and preview sneak peeks of some of the projects that are about to launch, things that people who don't join us don't get to see.
That's right.
And you guys are our special loyal audience, so you do get to see them. How's everybody doing tonight? You guys ready to talk about this behind the scenes stuff? How's it going? Barb, how are you?
I have been working on Divinity, a little bit of Sirens, waiting
Awesome.
for some more cat and mouse pages. And as soon as they show up, I'll be inking those.
Yeah, we're going to have to find
And,
Wubba and wring his neck.
Yeah.
Wubba, if you're listening, that was directed directly at you.
And I just caught up on the books, as in the accounting books.
Yeah.
Oh, excellent. That's always important. Aaron, what about you, my friend? How are you doing? I know you just finished coloring some of my pages, most of them, in fact.
I finished
Did a
coloring
fantastic
some of your
job.
pages, and I'm actually now drawing on my Final issue of Godlings again. Yay! So I'm doing that a little bit, and then I'm gonna jump on the obsoletes. So I'm getting a head start on this book. 6 pages in, and then I'll start obsoletes. So I
Excellent.
finished previous projects to get to these projects. So I'm sure more projects will come in.
Oh yeah.
It's
Well,
been hectic.
it has been hectic, and we're ending the sprint here toward the deadline for the Silverline Christmas special, which we've been talking about for a while. A lot of us are putting the finishing touches on our 6-page Christmas story. It's going to be a really big deal. Roland, why don't you tell everybody about all the ins and outs of the Christmas special and how fantastic it's going to be, and a great entry point to Silverline's titles.
So much so. I counted up the other day because I was already prepping the stuff for Kablam. Where did I have that? And I don't have my. I think I counted it up. We have 100 and shoot. Let me just pull out a calculator. I do words, not numbers.
I don't do numbers.
Yeah, you asked me to do numbers. I'm like, okay, so we ended up, I think, with 17 stories times 6 pages. It's 102 pages.
Wow.
Right?
Broke 100.
Yeah. So we 102 pages, and I think folks are going to absolutely love this because not only are you going to get to see your favorites, you're going to get to see, Cat and Mouse and Divinity and Kalis and so on, but you're going to be introduced to new stories that you still may not see for half a year. So this is going to be the sneak peek at some new titles that we've got in the works that I think will get folks excited and give just enough to kind of wet your whistle. And then my fear, you know what my fear is, don't you? My fear is people are going to read these. For instance, Silverblade right there at your shoulder. Indeed, and then they're going to start sending you hate messages saying, "Where is number 1? We need number 1."
Yeah, Dean.
And
What's wrong
Dean's
with you,
gonna
man?
say, "I'm a human being," and so Silverblade.
That's not an excuse.
That's true. But there's I don't know. I should count them, but probably close to half of the stories of the 17 are new. Brand new stories that we're doing. There's Silverblade. I don't have the list in front of me, so I'm going to forget somebody, and somebody's going to get upset, and I always hate that. But we got Silverblade, we've got Obsoletes, we've got Nightrise, we've got Satin's Ways.
Satin's Way. That's the first time I've heard that one.
Right. So this is one that has kind of been a little behind the scenes. We haven't done a whole lot with it, but Ron Fortier is the writer. You guys know who. Yeah, everyone knows Ron Fortier. So Ron Fortier is the writer, and the artist for that is someone I didn't know, but it looks fantastic. In fact, I'm on the right computer this time, so I can share a little bit.
I'm on the right computer.
Share with us,
well, the thing about it is, I have the two. I try not to do any of my personal stuff on my work computer, right? Because we covered that off air, months ago, and so I try not to do anything Silverline related on that computer. I just try not to do it. And so literally, what happens is I don't have anything on it. I did a lettering class this morning. And and I like to share some of what we do in the class, but I can't because I don't have any of it. So I'm like, okay, well, this is what you get to see. And so that's a little depressing to me sometimes because I would like to do it, but because of the way my employer is now handling the computer and stuff, I'm just not going to take that chance.
I understand. While you're looking that up, I want to bring something up that sometimes I've had some questions from fans. And a lot of folks might be a little confused about this. When the Indiegogo campaign or the Kickstarter campaign comes to a close and are fulfilled, although Indiegogo, you can still, add to it. Where can fans go? It's usually Indie Planet.
Yes.
And they can just search with a title name and find the Silverline titles. Is that correct?
Yes. Or even better way is you do indieplanet.com/Silverline, and that will take you to all of the titles that are available. I'm going to go ahead and share.
You could actually just go to silverline.com, and I think if you hit the shop product, it'll take you directly to the Indie Planet page.
That is correct as well. Yeah.
Excellent.
So I'm showing you here. This is the first page of Satin's Ways. As you can see, the art is done by a fellow by the name of Richard June. And like I said, I've never met him, don't know him, but to someone that Ron knew, and when he showed me the art, I'm like, wow, this stuff is really good. So this is page 1 of Satin's Ways, and this logo was designed by oh, I see his Rob Davis. I'm like, I see his face. Rob Davis designed it. Yeah. Sure enough. And it's the colors are done by Aiden Belcher, who is Mike Belcher's son, and who also colored Switchblade for us. Aiden colors Mike's Man in the Mask. I'm not going to show all of it, but then of course this is page 2. We got us some nice Santa Claus here, right? And then page 3. So yeah, I guess some stealth breaking in ninja kind of stuff. Yeah, so I'm really excited about it. This is one that like I said, folks just like Barb, you heard Barb say, yeah, I've never heard that one. It's been on the list. She just missed it. But we haven't talked about it that much. So
give
that's
us the
just
premise. Give us the premise of that
story. So the idea for the story is she, and I forget her name right off the top of my head here. So she's trying to figure out a way to make it's a Christmas story, right? So it's very feel good, and so she's trying to figure out a way to bring happiness to a certain group. But there's a jewel that's a special jewel that she has to obtain in order to do that. So it's it's a heist story. It's fantasy, yeah, but it's it's a bit of a heist story. So we'll get Ron Fortier on here as we get closer to the first issue being done. We'll let him talk about it. But yeah, so this will be fans' introduction into Satin's Ways, and like I said, then there's several others as well. So including your own Silverblade. So
indeed. Speaking,
I'm excited about that because it's a way for our fans, the ones who've been with us for these last 2 years, to get a first peek before anybody else does. Those who have supported our books and helped us get where we are, they supported this project. Now they're going to get a peek at, again, they're going to get their favorites, right? But they're going to get a peek at material, at new stuff that we're doing before anybody else does. So that's exciting.
Right. Well, and speaking of that, I actually have the first page lettered. I think I shared some of this with you earlier, Roland, off the air. Aaron, if you get a chance, if you put up just page 1 of Silverblade, people can get an idea of sort of the tone and the atmosphere.
Yeah, just send your offering. Well, I gave you the email address to send your offerings.
Oh yeah. What's nice?
I must appease the gods.
What's nice about this page is I'd never had my stories lettered by Mike Belcher, and he did a fantastic job, and he turned it around.
Oh, cool.
At lightning speed. Check that out, guys.
Mike is the consummate professional.
He really is. The logo, I was fortunate enough to get to design that. Roland liked it, so we rolled with it. And I would say Mike chose some very cool caption scroll boxes that really fit the Victorian era quite well, and then a very readable font for the dialogue boxes. And he's excellent about following the flow of eye movement. If you'll notice, through the page, it really does flow with the visuals, and that's a priceless talent. So
absolutely,
kudos to Mike for doing that and doing a terrific job on my letters. So I just wanted to, since you had shared the opening page to Satin's Ways there, I wanted to share the opening page to Silverblade, and folks, this is the very first page of the Christmas story, and you're seeing it first here. No one else has seen this outside of the Silverline pros. So lucky guys.
Yeah.
So,
102 pages.
okay.
When I first thought about this thing, months ago, you guys, when I started hitting you up for this stuff, I'm like, okay, well, we can get about an 80 page thing. Is kind of what I was thinking. And then everybody kind of responded. I'm like, okay, this is really cool. And if we had, so the initial responses put the page count up to about 120-ish. I forget exactly what the page, and I was like, holy mackerel, this is if we can get all of these, right, it's
Right.
a big thing. Things happen. Some of them weren't able to make it. There were some deadlines that just got to be too tight. And this is one of those
Sure.
that, this is one of those that we can't just wait until we're done, because, we wait until we're done to kickstart these comics. This one we can't do it, because it's like, okay, if we're going to have this book out by Christmas, we have to do it by this date so that we can print it and so that we can ship it. So
You mean some sort of holiday?
this was the first one that we had ever done with a really tight deadline, right? Everything else is kind of, okay, when can you get it done? Okay, once you get it done, then we'll do that.
Yeah, and we've got so many books that we can say, okay, well, you've got some time on that because I've got 2 other books that are ready to go now, and we'll just kickstart these 2 together.
Yes.
And because we've got a whole bunch of them in the pipeline, and we can just kickstart the 2 that are ready.
Well, and that's one of the things I was going to say, because Dean, and I don't remember the exact words at this point in time, but you said something that we're coming at the final part of our sprint. That may be so, but in about another week or so, we're going to launch another Kickstarter for White Devil #1 and Twilight Grim #3.
Awesome.
So there's no rest. We are simply taking a breath, and we're going to launch right back into the next one. Yeah.
Yeah, because we've just got too many books to sit around on them.
We can't just sit on them.
Well, I want to keep digging a little bit more behind the curtain here. That now that we have you with us, Roland, we can see how much you can reveal here. Now, I heard a rumor that outside forces were asking for interviews with you, presumably about Silverline and our publisher and how we fit into the marketplace. And is it something we can even talk about, or no, not really yet?
No.
Okay, too early. Okay,
yeah, that's way.
okay.
Wait, too
there. But
something exciting. Something I will say.
Okay.
Something exciting that you guys saw on the announcement today in our team chat. Is that we have Steph coming on board, who's and BJ and I sat down, had dinner with her and her family, her and her husband, and she is super excited, and she is she's a marketing student. That's what she's doing. And she came to us with all kind of plans, and here's what I see. And I'm like, I love your excitement. I love what some of her ideas are. And so we're excited to see the kind of things that she might be able to do for us. She has a history, actually. Okay, so let me just tell you this. She has a history of growing the social media presence of previous places that she worked for, right? Right. And that's what kind of, when we were talking, when I say, look, we don't have any problem producing the content. We got, just look here, we got people that can make the content, and we can even social media some of our stuff. It's just like, how do we grow the audience other than what we're doing, going to conventions and blah, blah, blah. She goes, well, I can help you there. So, so we're really, really excited to see what's that. Today is her first official day, and she and BJ, I know, spent some time on the phone today, plotting and planning and all kinds of stuff. So, I'm anxious to see what's going to happen in the coming weeks. That's
good.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that.
That's great news. I know that it's time for Silverline to become more of a presence. I'd love to be talked about in the same sentences as the other independent, Boom. Why not Boom and Silverline?
Right.
Why not Boom and Silverline? We're doing this, or Image and Silverline are doing this, or you know what I'm saying?
I do.
It's time for us to be discussed as a mover and a shaker.
I talk about you, Dean. I don't say anything nice, but I talk about you.
Well, one of my one of my
So,
hopes had been to get
it's
us
all
into to Diamond this year. That
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
happen, and
When they get out of ransomware attack, you mean?
right, exactly.
I know.
But that didn't happen, and that's okay. I'm
Yeah.
not, I'm a little bummed about it, but I'm like, you know what? We're on our own path, and that's
Yes.
that's the way it's going to be.
Exactly.
So 22 will be the year that because there's no reason not to, other than just time, and that's part of what kind of kept me from making that, and the fact that we didn't have a couple of things done that I wanted done for 21. But there'll be no excuses for that in 22. There shouldn't be anyway, not that I can foresee.
Good.
So, and I think that will help because, there's a lot of, you and I know it's not true, but there's a lot of people, particularly stores, that kind of have the attitude of, okay, well, if you're not in the catalog, you're not legit. Again, we know that's not true. But there's still some people who look at it that way. And, I even had, I probably told this before, I even had a show. I talked to him and I said, I'd love to come there as a guest. And he said, well, when was the last time you were in the catalog? I said, late 90s. He said, well, get another book in the catalog and I'll invite you as a guest. So,
okay. Well, is it true though? Are we now growing beyond in terms of the new media? Are we growing beyond the catalog as your legitimacy test? I mean, do you see those doors breaking out a little bit?
Are you asking me or are you asking the industry?
I'm asking you because you're the leader and you talk to these business people. And what's the perception?
I believe that the industry is growing beyond that. You look at somebody like Alterna, right? If you look at them and say, okay, well, there's an independent company that's doing a lot of good things. They have their own. They ship direct. They bypass Diamond. And I'm not suggesting that every company bypass Diamond. A lot of retailers don't want to work directly with publishers. I don't know if it's a trust factor or an annoyance factor, or I don't need to fill out 15 different forms. And I'm not sure that independents want that either, because at some point in time, a retailer is going to say, look, I order from Marvel, from DC, from Image, from Boom, from IDW. I don't need another order form. And so somebody down the list is going to get cut. So I don't know that that's the way that independents really want to go, because what if you don't make the cut? Then they're not even going to consider you.
It's too bad that there isn't a central clearinghouse website where you can just say, I want this,
Yes.
and the orders go out to the various publishers and they fulfill the orders.
Wouldn't that be nice? Tommy,
The Amazon,
Tommy,
the
I hope
Amazon
you're
of
listening.
comics.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. So you've got a central hub that the orders go directly, not from Amazon or not from the hub, but they go out to the publishers for the publishers to fulfill. That would be great.
That would be awesome, wouldn't it?
Man, we would jump on that like crazy if it existed. Tommy, are you listening?
Anybody out there with some spare cash to burn that wants to set up a new company?
Let me call Elon real quick. I'll get on the phone with Mr. Musk and see if he wants to sponsor us. But no, I think it's time though. Let's talk about what makes us. I like this, really touching on this segment every time I'm in a Wednesday Wham, and that is what makes Silverline special. What makes us special? Why should people look at our books? And why should people? I'd love to hear your take on that, Roland, because we talk about it all the time. The Whammers.
Well, look at us.
I know. Right?
You want my take on it?
Yeah.
None of us are getting rich off of Silverline. We are doing it for the love of the comic book genre. So we are pouring our heart and souls into these books.
Yeah.
Because
and if you're into collecting souls, each book comes with a part of Barb's soul, and so if you get them all, you get her entire soul.
That's right.
You do. You get a quickening every time.
I know.
There can only be only one.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Maybe that's our new. No, somebody's got that tag.
I think it shows it in the books that they're it comes through that we really care a lot about the characters that we're doing and about the books that we're doing. We love comics. We love the genre. We love the art. We love the storytelling and everything about it. And we're not doing it for a paycheck.
Right.
And I grant you that, back in the 90s when I was doing comics full time, I made a very, very good living. But I was taking any job that was offered to me too.
Yeah.
There wasn't really, I was part of an assembly line. And yep, I did X-rated comics. I did.
And there goes our stream.
Hey, and there goes you.
This is repeat number 2.
I worked on some pretty iffy things. I worked for Marvel. I worked for DC. I did funny books. But that was what a freelancer did. You picked up the jobs you could to put food on the table. I don't need to do that anymore. I'm retired. I have a comfortable retirement fund. I can do this because I love it.
These are written but unpublished scripts. That's what they are.
Wow.
And this is, I know I've mentioned this one before, right? But this is because I know that Barb and I talked about it a little bit. But this was Howard Simpson did this artwork for Gladiator, and it just never got published. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, these are. But when you're talking about, you're getting work, that was me back in the 90s. Please, do you have anything? I'll do anything. I'll do anything.
Yeah.
Even things that got, get taken off my resume. Oh yeah, I did that. And occasionally one.
So you're trying to tell me that you wrote the X-rated book that
I did not.
drew?
I did not write X-rated books. But I wrote a couple that
There's
weren't
a pause
PG-13.
There's a pause. Wait a minute.
But I did do a couple that weren't PG-13. So I think, Dean, your question is, there's a lot in there's a schism in comics. I know Tim and them touched on it on Tuesday. There's a schism in comics that we don't want to go into, and this is the thing that I like about us. None of us really want to go there, but we know it's there. We know that the schism is there, and the fans know it too. Fans know it and they see it. So I think what we have that I think fans would be interested in is the fact that we don't get involved in either of the sides, right? Our belief is that comics are for everybody, right? It doesn't matter if you vote on the left or if you vote on the right or if you walk to the right or walk to the left, and none of those things matter because our comics are made for everyone. And they're a return to fun. I think I heard somebody say, and I can't remember if it was one of our streams or not, but I heard someone say the other day that there was no fun in comics anymore. Everything was so serious and so dark and so adult. And where's the fun? And I think if you look at what we do, our comics are fun. They remind me, and of course, we're called Silverline for a reason, but they remind me of the fun that I had reading comics of the Silver and Bronze Age, when I was younger. And I think that's what folks, fans, readers of ours are going to get when they see our comics, is that they're going to get that, and they're going to come away with that feeling of, that was fun. I want to do that again. When's the next issue?
Well, I think you touched on what I like to call escapism. The reasons as a teenager, and you probably the same, Roland and Barb and maybe even Aaron, strange as he is, went to movies and so on. You want to escape the real world.
Let me just go ahead and write Dean's name on the board here. Strike one.
I don't want to go see anything heavy and dark every single time. I mean, you're in the mood maybe for that every once in a while, but these big adventure swashbuckling films that are still there's something to be said for the reason they're long lasting and enduring franchises. There's a reason people are still milking things like,
Star Wars.
Star
Yeah.
Wars, Indiana Jones,
Right.
Raiders of the Lost Ark. You know, I mean, well, it's the same thing. But I mean, things like you know, Star Trek. These things are being milked because they're escape, and while they may have some political overtones or undertones, even, for the most part, I think the most successful ones tend to be taking you to a different place that's away from your troubles and from the difficulties of day-to-day adult life. You know, how are we going to pay the bills, and
Well,
everything's so expensive now, you know?
Yeah. Well, you know, a lot of
And
people.
we need to get away from that. Go ahead,
Yes,
Bart.
I agree. Well, you know, when you talk about, you know, because a lot of times I hear people say, well, you know, politics have always been in comics. And I'm like, well, okay, possibly. I'm not willing
Pretty subtle.
yes, right. That's it. And that's the thing. It's like I'm not willing to swallow that whole, because you didn't beat me over the head with it. You told me, you entertained me, and then at the end of the story, I'm like, the X-Men are social outcasts. Does that have greater meaning? You know, you did beat me over the head with it and say, this is about racism, this is about racism, right? But
Yeah.
but you told me a good story about mutants who were outcasts from society and made me think. And I don't know if it's because writers aren't smart enough to write that kind of stuff anymore, so they just beat you over the head with it because they don't know how to tell that would be my guess, is they don't know how to write stories like that. But that's me being mean.
I would tend to push back and say, not in you, but in the statement that politics has always been in comics. I think morals have always been in comics.
Yes.
I think stories meant to tell morals. Politics to me is governmental workings, things that run a nation. If there are politics in comics,
I like that. You're right.
If there are politics in comics, it's politics of Metropolis or Gotham. It's made up politics that might reflect ours. But I see morals in stories. Racism is bad. Is that a political subject? It's a moral subject. I don't know if it's a political subject. So I don't necessarily see politics really in comics that much at all, unless there's a comic specifically made to be political.
Right.
So yeah.
Right. Doesn't it feel like, guys, that in the past, you know, let's pick a decade like the 90s, for example, it felt like anything could happen in a comic book. There were almost no rules. Like you could do a story about anything, and there wasn't this feeling that, oops, I might offend someone or lose my job if I do a comic about this or that or the other thing. But there were also places for serious political statements. You had smaller press that were handling some heavy duty political issues, but the prevailing subject matter was pretty much, you know, let's have an adventure or a thriller or a romance or, you know, a horror, a scary adventure or something, you know, and let's just get away from all this. And I'll give you an idea of something that I think a title. Daredevil works on a couple of levels, and a lot of times, I'm just grabbing that as an example, you can go as deep as you want, and there's a similar subject and subtext with Batman, but we'll stick with Daredevil here for the sake of discussion. Daredevil on the surface is just costume guy, lawyer by day, vigilante by night, beats up the bad guys, right? And then puts them in jail as a lawyer. He's blind, special powers, etc. Okay, well, you can jump into it for that if you like the crime fighting type books, right? But there's a deeper struggle for Daredevil, and that is, and this is the part that I think makes for an interesting subtext. Daredevil asks the question, how do you fight vicious criminals and monstrous evildoers without becoming a monster yourself?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, again, but there's nothing real, you don't have to go political with that. You can keep that as the internal struggle of an individual character. I think a lot of people want to project some sort of collective message onto things sometimes, but I think it's important to look at the character for what he is and remember these are characters. They're individuals. They have a past. They have parents. They have a childhood. They have an individual path that they walked to reach this point. And I'm sorry, but not every single one of them is some iconic avatar for your group. Sometimes they're just that character, right? And I'll bring it home here with my characters, right? Sam Blake is just Sam Blake. He's not an icon or an avatar for any group. Elizabeth Dane, same thing. This takes place in Victorian England. There's no political message for that at all, other than I thought it would be cool because a lot of literary monster stories like Dracula and a lot of literary adventure stories like the Alan Quatermain series took place in Victorian England, the late 1800s. It has a gothic, mysterious atmosphere to it, and I chose that time. Now, I'm sure when the book comes out, people will project something onto it and go, well, he chose that because of this, or he chose it. Really, it seemed like fun. It was going to be cool. Yeah. It was the cool factor for me.
And I know it's all that architecture you get to draw.
That's what it is, right? Filigree and pointy rooftops and gables. And it's
I was worried about the same thing with Divinity, actually, because Divinity is biracial.
Right.
And because he married, her father married later on and had Divinity 11 years apart or 13 years apart from Zach, who is blonde haired and blue eyed. And I just know that eventually somebody's going to say, well, are you making a statement on race? No, actually, that was just the way I saw her in my head. Yeah. There was no underlying reason that I chose to make her biracial. When I thought her up, the picture in my head I have of her, that's what she looked like. Mm-hmm. And there's no deeper meaning behind it than that.
Yep.
Yeah, there's my stories are all aliens and creatures just because one, not just to get away from race, it's just because I could literally do anything. Mm-hmm. Like not only get to draw characters, but I get to my imagination limit. When I put it in the real world, it's sometimes limiting. Is that realistic? Nobody can ever question if Mike Collins is realistic or not because it doesn't take place on Earth.
Right.
So I mean, it's like if you're asking that, we're not reading the same story here, Chief. We
just think consider the source, Aaron. That's what we think. And we go,
no realism here. And then my next story I'm thinking of is going to be even crazier. So I don't know. And there's a part of me like I don't mind writing about Earth and humans, but I don't know. It just kind of seems boring. I live, and that's what I liked about comics. I live on the planet Earth. I want to go someplace I've never been before. That's when I like on the Alien Legion. I mean, it's like all these aliens running around like battling wars. I mean, I've never seen anything like that. And stuff I got into as kids with Ninja Turtles and Usagi Yojimbo. I mean, a Samurai Rabbit. That was, cool.
Yeah, right.
They just don't do stuff like that anymore. You don't see a lot of weird eclectic ideas. Even when I don't know. I mean, even when I was looking at, my friend said a lot of times I do sci-fi or fantasy comics. It's just superhero stories with a fantasy veneer instead of really being like Usagi Yojimbo. He's like, he's not a superhero. He's just a straight samurai. People just mixing ideas up. You don't see it as much. I'm not saying you don't completely, but I don't seem to. My friend read a sci-fi comic, and I can't remember, it was Kurt Busiek, I think, wrote it. And I mean, I like stuff I've read of his, but he's like, well, it's like these guys who fly, spaceships, but they're just superheroes to fly spaceships. He's like, it's the same. And I'm like, well, he is a superhero writer, so I understand. Right. But again, it was like, there's not really, it's just kind of different.
And see, I have the same kind of thing with Trump's, is that, of course, the title always gets, I know. I shouldn't say always. It gets a few people looking. I actually had someone come up to me at this last convention, and he started off really aggressive. It says, the first time I passed by your table, I was really put off. And I'm very sorry, and I had no idea where he was going with this, right? I was really put off, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I didn't, and I'm thinking, I didn't see you, or I was looking away or talk, because I talk a lot. And I'm like, I'm sorry, how you doing? He goes, oh, it was your unfortunately titled comic here. I'm like,
yeah.
Oh, you mean Trump's? And he said, yeah. I said, well, that has nothing to do. And I knew where he was going, right? I could read him. I said, well, that has nothing to do with our former American president. He goes, oh, how unfortunate. And I'm like, well, do you play cards? And he goes, oh, yes, I love cards. I said, well, Trump's is a card term. And I said, we even added cards to the logo to help you know that this is this is not American politics. And so I always, hesitate when I want to say, because, there are politics in Trump's. but it's not that at all.
No, and it's no relation to
science, right? No relation at all to
Science
American
fiction,
Pie.
total science fiction.
Total science fiction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Scheming behind the scenes.
Machiavellian plot.
Yes, right.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely.
And so I always kind of have that trouble trying to
was
get
he-
there without, especially when someone really he came loaded for bear. So
like was he upset that
had the title?
Did you get a sense that he was pro Trump or against Trump?
No, he handed me a card, said he was running for office as a Democrat.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Now,
So did you convert him in the end?
He walked off, I think, with a better feeling, because I picked up the book and flipped through it and let him know, I'm like, look, there's no orange-haired men in here. This is all about these 4 kingdoms vying for power, and only one kingdom can have the seat of power, and that's that kingdom, and they're called the Trumps. And he goes, I know how Trump's is. Frubat says Trump's is sci-fi.
It is.
I have been calling it sci-fi superhero.
Yeah.
And the reason I add the little / superhero, because the aces have superpowers.
Yeah.
Everybody else, they're just science fiction characters. They, with weird colored skin and animals, and they have, blaster weapons kind of stuff. But yes, it's very science fiction. Very science fiction. The aces have superpowers, though. So
what did he say when you held up the comic when he left and you said 2024 and you held up Trump's? Did he say anything about that?
hilarious.
He said, give me my card back.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I mean, did you ever have any sort of like 2020? Like, oh, bye-bye. Like,
No.
my bad.
I wished him. I said, good luck in your I'm not in his district. I said, good luck in your campaign. I wish you well, and thanks for talking to me.
At a Comic-Con?
He was politicking. He was politicking at a Comic-Con.
Yeah, which I thought was a little different. I'm like,
I've never seen that before in my life.
Yeah, that's the thing I was asking. It's like,
yeah, never seen that before in my life. So,
Roland, I wanted to compliment you too on the Trump's concept, because it reminds me of the approach that Neil Gaiman has with the Endless, and he's anthropomorphizing. He's making characters out of concepts like death and despair and dream, right? And so you're taking the world of card playing and bringing them to life, and it's a fantastic idea.
Well, I know you've heard the story, but it really was born out of the fact that my family plays a lot of cards. When we get together, in fact, I'm looking forward to Christmas, because that's when we usually play our cards. And whenever our family gets together, that we sit down and we play a lot of cards in which we have to call trumps. We have to call a suit when we play the hand. There's got to be one of the suits as a trumps. And so we bid on hands. We try to do those so that we can call which, if you get the bid in a lot of these, if I win the bid, then I can determine based on my hand, I get to call what's trumps. And then of course that lets me lead and hopefully win. And I get it really, really, really was born out of the fact that my family plays a lot of cards, and I just got to thinking one day, wouldn't it be, because you got kings and queens and that kind of stuff, like, wouldn't it be weird if there's like the cards really were like kingdoms and they were at war and we were sitting there playing, and these kingdoms and they were in our hands because and that's kind of how the idea was born.
Well, what's great about it too is the language of card playing is so ingrained in our culture and in our society that you can use the language in the storytelling, and it metaphorically works, because even people who don't understand card playing, but the more you understand card playing, the more powerful the internal language is.
People used the term trump card long before Donald Trump was president.
Yeah, absolutely. And the equivalent would be, and we could use any game, but this just came to my mind. If you did that with a chessboard, and that's been done in
checkmate.
So
how many times have you heard someone say checkmate? I got you. Right.
Yeah. And even doesn't Marvel have characters that are chessboard metaphors?
I know they have ones based off the Zodiac.
Yes, they do. They absolutely do have that.
But
Absolutely.
do they have one?
Yeah.
I think they do have one based off the.
Because the Avengers fought Zodiac.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Well,
know
the
that.
White Queen, presumably the White Queen
Would be a
is
There's Bishop.
chess related.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's
Also.
Bishop. Yeah. Yeah. I think
Yeah.
it is an
Yeah.
X-Men thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
It's interesting that these cultural norms and cultural entertainment finds its way as foundational elements in comic books all the time.
Yeah.
And it helps sell it, to be honest
Yeah.
with you.
Well, and I ended up telling the guy, I said, look, we ultimately opted because you guys remember we debated the title. You were y'all were part of it. But ultimately, and I told him this, I said, ultimately we opted that the title in itself was an attention getter. And as we are trying to have people look at our books, we decided that if you hate Trump, you might pick the book up and say, haha, what is this? And then you'll see it has nothing to do with President Trump. If you love Trump, you might go, oh, I love President Trump. Pick it up and go, oh, it has nothing to do with President Trump. But this still looks cool, right? And if that's what happens, then that's a win for us. I said, so we opted to keep the title.
Well, it also goes in the context of the story because they're trying to Trump each other win. So there's even a context of what they're actually trying to do in the story.
Right.
So yeah. I don't know. I never said it's weird. I mean, that's like
Tommy wants Uno all the time when he wins at something. That's not all you yell, Tommy, but we're not going to talk about that. It's a family-friendly show.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's get back to some behind-the-scenes stuff. Barb, are there any visuals or even scripting ideas or maybe some sketches, something you would like to share that's exclusive? That only people who watch our stream get to see.
The first thing she's going to say, yeah, Roland still owes me comments on one of them.
Aaron, if you want to pull up the blue line splash.
Are you trying to tell me you'd like to share something with the rest of the children, Barbara?
Yes, I would. I would like to share with the class the first page of Divinity number 3.
Okay.
Nice.
Oh.
Okay. Now let me know if I'm. Stop that. Stop. Okay.
The blue lines only.
The blue lines only. Got it. Okay. I think I know which one you're talking about. If I'm not, I apologize.
Well, it's a splash page, so I only sent you like a couple of examples.
She will find you.
Mm-hmm. Now, while he's doing that, this is the
I love
pencils.
the infinity effect. Sorry.
Yes.
Nice.
These are the pencils that I got from Alex Sarabia, and every time he sends a page, he just gets better and better. His stuff is absolutely drop dead gorgeous.
It really
but
is. It really is.
Now the really amazing thing about being the inker and the colorist of my own book is I can look at this page and say, okay, I can see a problem right away. The old guy is a hologram. So you can actually see the lines from the wall behind him. How am I going to work this so that I can make it look like a hologram without just a bunch of black lines all over the place? Nice. So Aaron, if you want to pull up just the head version of the inks, okay, pull up the non-head version.
Oh wow, cool.
Hang on.
Now we're looking at Aaron's private background.
There we go.
Secret stuff on your computer, dude.
My own private stuff, because I have so much.
What I decided to do is I inked this on 2 separate layers digitally. So I inked the hologram head itself on its own separate layer. And now bring up the one without the head in it.
Okay. I'm going to try. I think it's this way. Yes. Okay.
Yep.
Yes.
And then I inked the rest of the page after I muted the previous layer. So I have them separated. Now, if you want to show the completed inked version.
Okay, I might be going there. Yes.
So there it is all together, but those are separated into 2 separate layers. And that's a real cool thing about being able to color my own stuff. I can look ahead and say, you know what? I can see a problem here with the coloring.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to approach this in a different way. If I had just inked all of this and sent it off to the colorist, they would have a bit of an issue. So now you want to show the colored version? And so this is what it ended up with.
Oh, that looks so
Whoa.
good.
Cool.
So I was able to color hold the entire head on one layer and then color the rest of the layers and then add the glow around it. And then you can still see the wall in black behind
Mm-hmm.
the hologram because I inked it in layers.
Nice.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. That's exactly
Wow.
what Fruit Bat said. He said layers.
Yes,
Layers.
layers. I
Layers.
love layers. It allows you
Yeah.
to do
So
so
now
many cool
we
things.
revealed to some people who may be wondering, how a color hold works. I remember working on Green Lantern back in the 90s, and all the green powers of the ring were always
Yeah,
done as a color hold. Did you ever work on any of the Green Lantern stuff, Barb?
Yes, I actually did work on Green Lantern, and I also worked on an issue of She-Hulk where there were color holds all around her, and it was all done in. I had to do it in red, and then they did the color holds on their side.
Nice.
But
Nice.
doing it digitally nowadays, all you have to do is place inks. You do a clipping mask above the layer that you want to do the color hold on, and just go in and recolor the lines, color right over the lines, and they will pop up in a different color. It's so easy. No more of this after production work.
Yeah, it's digital technology has really made this just a lot faster. I was thinking today, just in terms of getting the files to the people on the assembly line, it's instantaneous now. Remember when we used to have to send everything FedEx and you have to wait?
Oh, yes.
FedEx man is going to be here at 10 o'clock. Christ.
Well, the thing about it is too, in the office, as you guys might imagine, there were multiple editors and all of them got the packages in. So there at that time, there was this time, right around, as Dean said, right around 10 o'clock, you would hear from all the offices, rip, everybody ripping the packages up. And then next thing you would know, you would hear them calling for the either like Curtis, right, the intern, or the assistants. Hey, I need copies. Because we would make copies immediately before we kind of did anything in case something happened. God forbid anything happened, but we would make those copies pretty quickly, and then we would try to get those pages whatever the next assembly line step was, because the longer I held them in my hands, the less time the next person had with it. So,
and it was kind of similar on my end as an inker. As soon as I would get that FedEx box, I would rip it open. And if I had the time, I would go out and make copies, but I had to leave the house to go make copies. I had to go, a few miles away to make, and I had to find a place that would make 11 by 17 copies. Nowadays, I can just use my scanner and scan it in.
Right.
But if I had the time, if I wasn't up against a really, really tight deadline where I started to had to ink immediately, I would try to go out and make the copies of the pencils just in case, I spilled coffee on the originals, because I was working on the originals back then. So everything you had to be really super careful.
Right.
And you always made a copy.
Curtis do if we all just started texting him, we need copies?
Yeah, wouldn't that be awesome?
We need copies. What are you people doing? Come on, snap.
It's like, why are you asking me for copies?
Is this what you do?
Curtis now would say, you make your own copies or I'll chop suey your head, right?
No doubt.
Yes, seafood. Yes, seafood.
Yes,
right.
seafood. Exactly.
The other thing.
Go ahead.
As we see, the other thing, what I like that technology has done. So particularly someone like Barb, somebody like Tommy, inkers who have done this for a long time, but did it traditionally, and then make the shift to digital. It's like, okay, I've done this and long enough to know that I can ink this on a layer, and the colorist will appreciate me for that. Right. You can ink something on a layer, and even if they decide not to color hold it, right, or whatever, the lines are still there. You've just inked it on a different layer, and you've helped the colorist it helped make it a little bit easy for them, so they don't have to go and select all the lines, right? And you guys know to do that, right? someone else may not understand how that works, or no, they may just ink it all flat and then say, okay, we'll go back in and then do it. But why do that when you can just go ahead and ink it on a separate layer?
Something
You know?
else I've noticed is that when I ink digitally, I ink as if I were inking physically.
Mm.
So my ink lines have a brush feel to them because I'm inking the way that I would ink digitally. I purposely went out to find a brush that looks like, a digital brush that looks like a regular inking brush.
Yeah, and I think
My
I think
style looks the
Tommy.
same.
I think Tommy said. I think he does the same thing. Of course, he's making comments here. Some of them are
Uno.
showing. Hey, yeah. I mean, copies of pencils. Yeah, I mean, Tommy makes copies of the inks himself. And of course, this is a digital age, so we don't have to do that. FedEx lost more than one box. Yeah,
Yeah.
they sure did.
Mhm.
But I think Tommy said the same thing about his digital stuff, and he goes, he says he's gotten to the point, and you probably have too, Barb. He said I've gotten to the point where I can ink a digital and a physical, and no one will know the difference.
I do.
know? Yeah.
I usually throw in a few physical copies of every issue I do so that we can sell it on the
Right.
Kickstarter, and you cannot tell the difference.
Nope, you cannot.
I can ink twice as fast digitally now, but I always do a few physical copies too. You can't tell any difference.
Strange enough, there's only one way that you can tell differences.
Would anyone in-house ever have to fix an artist's work?
So I think this goes back to the question about when we're talking about getting all the artwork in at Malibu, and the answer to that is yes. Most of the times it was
me.
No. Well, I mean, so most of the times the fixes were costumes, things like that. Oh, well, the artist didn't do this costume right, and then the inker just inked it because that's what the penciler put down. And actually, well, that's not the costume, so we got to fix it, right? And rather than send that back to the team to do, it was just easier to do it in house because we had a small bullpen there. But yeah, so the answer to that question is yes. We didn't do a lot of fixes in the sense of this art is bad, we need to fix it. Our fixes came more because of, he's wearing this costume and he's not supposed to be wearing that costume, so we have to fix that.
I had a couple of instances where I got my pages back and panels had been reduced in size to make room for more word balloons. So they would photostat the panel and then they would reduce it a bit.
Art.
Yeah, and extend the art out so there was more room for the panels. But that's about the only fixes I ever saw on pages I got back.
I actually did fix something in Dean's last page I colored.
What?
I don't even know if you'd even noticed it. It didn't make any sense.
Clearly he didn't, based on his reaction.
There was a way, I don't know if you drew it or the inker inked it, where the lady wearing the front dress, like she had the blue dress and the thing, it looked like it was shoved over, like literally going over her shoulder. And then it was going down the front, and that didn't make any sense, so I switched it.
Okay. Well, appreciate that. Hey, Brent, welcome, my friend.
Hey.
How are you?
I'm tired.
Brent's still on daylight saving time.
I don't know what it is, but Darcy and I were looking at each other like at 7 o'clock going, it's not 7, it's like 11.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Those kind of days, huh?
Yeah. I don't know.
I understand. I hear you.
How are you guys doing?
We're good. We're talking about behind the scenes stuff, process stuff. Sneak peeks at production, things in production. I was just about to show a page. There was a particular page in the 6-page story for Christmas that was really, really tough to solve. Just some details. I like to do layered action, and page 4 really presented some readability challenges. And so it was one of those pages where from the rough all the way to the finished colors, it just became that Rubik's Cube that you wanted to solve. But then once I solved it, I was really happy with the page. So I uploaded some images to Aaron. He's going to share here as we begin.
That's the pencils.
That's the page. This is the action page. And as you see in that upper portion of the page, I layer the action where Elizabeth Dane is dueling the villain of the piece. And then we just flow through the action without any panel borders. And I like to do that, but it can be tricky because sometimes you have problems with separation. So I think you got the inks also, Aaron. But the challenge here was to make the duel understandable, and the steps of each portion of the duel. They're locked up, and the villain basically twists downward because she's blocked his overhead strike with what we call an X block in martial arts, and he's so strong that he literally just moves her blades downward, and then with a backhand just swings forward and just slices her upper left arm. And I wanted to fill the background with a close-up because the villain also has, in this particular story, if you look into their eyes, there's almost a supernatural hypnotism going on, almost like the old-fashioned idea of the vampire. Don't look directly into the master vampire's eyes because you'll be momentarily distracted or hypnotized, and they can take advantage of you in that moment. So I was working with all these concepts, and I realized when the page was drawn that it had great action, but I was concerned that the separation might make it difficult to read. So if we go to inks, Aaron, you see again it gets better as we move forward. But again, the characters are layered, and you get the impact of the shot. But I almost like to superimpose. You'll see in a lot of my work, even though there's action going on in the foreground, a lot of times in the background, I'll do like almost what we used to call a double exposure of an inset or a floating head, like whether it's one of the characters, in this case, the villain of the scene. And I wanted that intensity of that close-up, and the dialogue plays off of it. And then we go to color. And this is where we start to separate. What I did here was I decided they're in snow, and the snow's, sort of billowing out in clouds. And I used some of that, but also just almost a glow around the characters to help separate Elizabeth in the foreground from the villain in the middle ground, and then the villain's face in the background. And I think it took until we got to the color stages that we had the separation that I was looking for. So there's, just an example step by step of how those are solved. And there it is with letters and sound effects, which are always nice. Fun. Again, Mike Belcher did a fantastic job. With lettering. Aaron, kudos to you for the colors. Beautiful work.
Lots of crayons come in handy, don't they?
Yeah, man. You can't even tell. You smudged them really well.
I know. I haven't got the one with the built-in sharpener, so I have the elite crayons.
I had a lot of fun with the disintegration panel there near the bottom.
At the bottom.
You had the kaleidoscope effect, and then I went kind of crazy with it. I was like, it's gonna be glittery and crackly, and it's just gonna fall apart. And so it was fun though. It's one of those really, the pleasure working with these guys. I want to share with the fans here is it really is like you can't believe you're doing this, and you get to share it with everybody, and it's going to be printed and everybody can see it, because it's really, we're just having fun. Yeah. And again, Roland touched on this early on in the stream, is that's one thing you guarantee with the Silverline content. We have fun doing it, and hopefully that bleeds over into the experience of reading it and experiencing it as well. I know it does with Aaron, because he had a lot. See, look, Silverline is all about fun, putting fun back in a Well, yeah, nicely said, Tommy. Uno, my friend. It's his new cry of victory there. Uno. But Brent, since you're here, talk to us a little bit about when you're behind the scenes. You're working on Kalis and particularly working on something. Talk to us, share with us a little known fact about what goes into the process for you. Share it with the fans.
Share with the fans what goes into the process.
Yeah, is there something that inspires you particularly? Do you put mood music on? Do you read some of your favorite stuff? Do you watch a particular movie or anything like that?
Can
What puts you in that zone?
juicy spoilers?
Spoilers? No.
Yeah.
It's hard to give spoilers on a 6-page story. I mean, I feel like
Well, we're not just talking about the Christmas story. Anything new that you're working on.
Yeah, anything new you're working on, you want to tease or sneak peek for us?
Tease us about.
I'm still getting pages.
Kalis is top notch.
Look at that.
Thank you, Fruit Bat 36.
It's awesome.
I think your name beats mine, that's for sure. Brent Larson, possibly the flattest name ever made. But anyway, I just proved some more pages for Justin's work on Cape Town. Really looking sharp. Pretty excited about that. And Mickey's been throwing up the colors for the Kalis Christmas story, and wow, those are looking sharp. And it's funny because you guys are all vets, but I haven't really been in the comics game for very long. So I've really just seen Lewis and Leander's work on Kalis, and those guys are great, and I love their work. But it's funny to see someone else do pencils and inks and colors who are not them. I've never experienced that before, and I'm like, whoa!
Brent's got a new name now.
Yeah, but what's funny is
he hadn't noticed it.
Oh, Brent
Tiger 87. Okay. Yeah.
All right. 87 was a key year in my development. Yes.
Very nice.
So, what was I going to say? To tell you the truth, I have struggled to know how to inspire myself. I ask everybody I know who's a creative, what do you do to re-energize your creative juices? Because I don't know.
Against the deadline.
Is it deadline? Deadline is what gets me.
That really gets my creative juices going.
And it's like, and afterwards they never tell me where they got the drugs. So, because it's that like classic artist, like how do you inspire yourself? You smoke weed or something. I hear this all the time. I don't smoke weed.
Deadline equals panic. Panic is a great motivator.
Panic is a great
I'll
motivator.
admit I work really well under deadlines. Some of my best writing has been when it had to be done in an hour or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
But I guess in a way that's really true. Just by sitting down at the same time every day and writing, the inspiration starts to come, and that's great.
BIC, right?
Say again?
BIC.
Best in
Class?
Best in chair.
Yes.
Best
in
in
chair.
Nice.
Butt in chair.
Nice.
Best
Yeah.
in chair.
The more I step away from writing, and then when I get the butt in the chair, and the more I'm staring around at anything but the screen. So just the routine really inspires me a lot. But seriously, I don't know. I love watching shows. I love reading. I love watching movies. But I kind of go through phases where I'll watch a bunch of movies, and then maybe I'll play a lot of video games, and then I'll read a bunch of comics.
I read.
Yeah.
That's what when I feel, which is not terribly often, but when I feel like I'm needing some kind of inspiration, I just read. I'll start reading, something that I may have been putting off for a while. I just, for instance, I've just recently picked up Andrew Vox's first novel, one that I've known about for a long time, but I've never read. I've read a bunch of his later ones, and so I'm in the middle of reading that right now, and it's getting me super pumped up.
Music is a big inspiration for me. And interesting, I'll usually pick a soundtrack of subject matter or content that's either the complete opposite or exactly what I'm writing. So it could be Henry V, or it could be, Van Halen. It just depends.
Yeah.
Because the Van Halen is late at night when I'm about to doze off at the drafting table and I need something to pick me up. Where sometimes, soundtrack music will just send you right off into dreamland.
Right.
But their music does a lot for me. I can picture Aaron, listening to death metal up in Portland. And
Strangely enough, I do not listen to death metal.
Really, I can just the screamo music,
the screamo stuff.
No.
What about Manilow?
I will show you a picture of my favorite band, just so you know.
Listen to that music where they sing.
It's clogging, isn't it? Clogging.
It is.
Metallica. No.
Fruitbat 36 says, start thinking what if the stupidest scenarios you can and see where they take you.
Yeah, that's not bad. I was going to say also, Fruitbat mentioned going for a walk. I will say, a lot of my ideas literally just come from me walking around the block just once. All I needed to do was get out of the room and get some fresh air and just let my mind kind of unplug from my environment, and really just sparked. So that's great advice.
This is my favorite band.
Oh, here we go. Wow, we're getting behind the scenes.
Baby metal?
Nope.
Rock on. What is
if you listen to them, they are straight up heavy metal, old school heavy metal.
So
they do not look like screamo at all, do they?
No, they do not.
No,
it looks like I don't even know. I mean, what Victoria's Secret?
They're called Love Bites. You ever want to listen to them?
Love Bites. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Hey, I've got one for you too. Greta Van Fleet. If you like Zeppelin, Greta Van Fleet.
I have been. It's funny that you say that because for the last 2 weeks I've been Greta Van Fleeting it up. Seriously,
we're on the same wavelength, which is terrifying and
I kid you not. If I had my phone in here, I would open it up, because it's Spotify. Because we can now hook up our Spotify to our car, and so on my way to work this morning, I hit Spotify and put Greta Van Fleet on the Spotify for the car so I could hear it. So if I were to open it right now, it would still have Greta Van Fleet on the
Very
Spotify.
Nice.
Is this is this like a person?
No, it's a band. They chose to name their band off of somebody they knew in their neighborhood. And it's a great non sequitur name, but they sound the most like and these are like 20-something guys.
No, like 1920.
Yeah. And they grew up listening to Zeppelin because
they sound like Zeppelin.
Listen to Zeppelin, right?
Yeah.
So they sound. I mean, I'm serious, Brent. You want to hear? Just go to YouTube and say Greta Van Fleet, latest song or whatever, and you're like, wow.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. Really amazing. Anyway, free plug there, guys. Free plug. We can do some background music for our website sometime, but we love you guys. But yeah, what Tommy says, I get a lot of inspiration from you guys. Love jamming with y'all, a bunch of talented folks at Silverline. Wow, thanks, Tommy.
Yeah, Tommy. Hey, Tommy, when are you going to get me those notes, man? I'm still grooving on that idea you gave me. I think it's great.
And I agree with Tommy. He and I talk about that quite a bit. Is like, this is, part of, as you guys, I'm sure, part of the reason I like conventions is because you get to hang out with, your fellow creatives, and you kind of get those juices going again. These things, these streams that we do, for me, are a lot like that. And I know Tommy, I'm not going to put words in his mouth, but I know that's one of the things Tommy says too, that one of the things he enjoys is hanging out, because it has that kind of post-convention hangout feel to it,
Yeah, it really does.
It's actually bringing back like a studio vibe.
Yeah. Very much so.
Yeah.
Fruitbat says melodic, and that's not their name.
Not their name.
So,
okay.
I think he may mean melodic metal. Like Neil Morse put out a new album. Yes, I know. I have my share of Neil Morse right over here. I'm a big fan of Neil Morse. See, I've even got one signed by Neil. Right.
What is that? Is that like a plastic square?
It's a CD.
It's a physical
Yeah.
object that contains music on it.
I,
Wow.
I still buy my music in CD form.
Yeah. I used to play 8 tracks.
I did too,
Yeah.
but I don't have any more of
I did
those.
too. Cassettes, even.
Oh,
Yes,
Dean will
cassette
appreciate
tape.
this one.
Oh yeah, flash up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, savior of the universe, indeed.
Yeah.
Still alive.
Yeah, you see, it's within hand's reach, right? I mean, I can.
Yes, absolutely.
Somebody get the funny. Somebody did the laughing face. Stop with the laughing face. Yeah. Yeah, I get to see Neil Morse live. Fruit Bat. I get to see him live. Oh, I guess the year of COVID started. It was a Christmas gift.
20.
So 20. And my son and I, the Christmas gift was tickets for my son and I to go see Neil Morse here in Orlando. And literally, we were on the second row. And so I could almost reach out and touch a guitar player's shoes if I wanted to. That would have freaked him out, so I didn't do it.
Yeah, we probably would have. They probably would have. So, Brent, I'm going to put you on the spot here. What's your favorite thing about working with us at Silverline? Go for it. Man. Just,
How do I love thee? Let me count the ways.
Yes,
Indeed.
yeah,
Because he's worked with so many other creators, right?
yeah.
To compare with.
See?
Well,
Well,
I was just going to
he
ask him
hasn't
what he personally
filmed.
thought about me in
Yeah.
general.
That's not something you can say on live.
That's true. We're a family-rated show.
What makes us special?
Well, I
Because
just find that gesture rude.
we did touch on this earlier in the stream. So I wanted your take as somebody new to comics
Yes.
and that sort of thing. What's your take on working with Silverline?
Well, I think it bears saying I had zero idea of how comics worked until I met Roland. And there's so many people out there who want to write for comics. It could be the first thing anyone has ever wanted to write as a kid. You know, when you're a kid, you don't think, I'd love to write the next novel, or wow, movies, I should write for movies.
Right.
I think comics, I love comics, I should write for comics. So in terms of a writer's dream, it could be the one you had first. And I never really thought it was a possibility until I met Roland, and then I met you guys, and just I don't know, it's really cool to see where you guys have come from and that you still love doing it. And I know the money's not great, but that just shows passion. And I think we've all been at an age where we're like, am I really cut out for this, or should I have gone for the bigger ticket? And I mean, you guys get to say I did what I wanted, and that, you know, there's a lot of people my age who are freaking out about their life choices, and it's fun to hang out with you guys and see what you're doing and get just a little taste of that, because I still feel like a rookie.
Your age, Brent? Exactly what age would that be?
I
We're
just
talking triple digits here or something? Or?
no. I'm at the age.
He's got
where
3
you-
names.
He does.
Yes, T. Just call me T. I'm at the age when you start thinking, you know, I should buy a new expensive car to prove that I'm not compromising on all my dreams. Something great that I can't afford and will regret a week after buying it. That kind of thing. So,
79
I thought it was
Trans Am.
hilarious when my
You
mother
nice.
retired. She started getting pamphlets for offers of cremation offers. And I had tons of fun with her. I'm like, look what came in the mail. Oh, they're thinking of you already.
I actually got earlier this year my first invitation to join AARP, and I was offended. And they were like, "We'll give you this 3-piece desk set," and I'm like, I don't even have a desk. Desks are for old losers. Now, this
That's
is not
right.
true. I actually have a desk in the other room. But I was just mad.
Oh, my
So
desk.
mad.
And he like threw it out of his lazy boy. He leaned back in his lazy boy and like, get that out of here.
See, that's what I
Grab
meant.
that TV remote.
At that point, I wasn't really coherent. I was just mad. I just got something from AARP. I mean, that's when you know that you really need to start settling into learning how to play stocks and really get into Andy Griffith and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, why
And I
didn't
just
buy
wasn't ready.
Bitcoin, Brent?
So-
why didn't I buy Bitcoin? You know, why?
Oh, I
why
know.
didn't I buy Amazon,
Yeah.
right. Oh boy.
Yeah. So
What is
we
this
went to the
Bitcoin-
cheap movies.
Seriously, what the Bitcoin thing? Is this a real thing? I mean, are we going to go to this? I mean, it's
I don't
monopoly
know.
money, right? I mean,
I-
what are we doing here?
I don't know. I just know that when I log into PayPal, it now shows me Bitcoin values. I'm like,
They tried
what?
Bitcoin a while ago. I remember this was, and of course, this is Washington and Portland. But the idea, and I think it was Bitcoin, that there were places actually accepting it. So you could actually go up with your phone and pay for a coffee or whatever, Starbucks, and you just tap this thing and you get Bitcoin. Now. That seemed a little ridiculous to me because you're adding the extra step to transferring the Bitcoin to actual currency. And you'd instead of giving you actual, American currency, we'll do Bitcoin so you can take the time to transfer it into American currency to put it in your bank. I'm like, why add the extra step?
Right.
And so they got rid of it because it just didn't really make any sense. It's like, okay, so that seems kind of silly.
Yeah.
But I do remember them trying to do that.
Backtracking to AARP. So we went to the cheap movies yesterday, right? Because we're cheap.
We did too.
Yep, cool. We saw Dune. I didn't have the
Saw the Eternals.
I didn't have the dark experience that you said. I was kind of looking for that, but I didn't. It didn't seem too dark for me in the theater. But I'm with you though. I don't like them when they're too dark, and that just irritates the fire out of me. But long story short, so we arrived a little bit late, which ended up not being a problem because there were like 30 minutes of ads.
I know.
And the wife was standing at the BJ was standing at the window, and I went to park. And so as I was walking up, the guy looks up at me and he goes, "I'll go ahead and add that senior discount on for you."
Oh,
Wow. That's
BJ, she's standing there. She goes like this, and then she looks at me, and I said, "Hush, just take the discount."
I know. That's right.
She's like, "I am not a senior."
You still get carded, don't you, Roland?
Carded? You mean
people
for being a
still card you?
senior?
Yeah, no, just
No.
carded for alcohol. Even at my age, people still card me because they have to. But I always feel like,
mean-
oh, you're so nice. Thank you.
Well,
we have. Then they look at.
oh,
you
she
and go,
hears
"No,
me
we
telling the
have to
story.
card
Oh, she's
everybody."
giving me the stink eye from the door, y'all. She hears me telling the story.
It's not the senior citizen discount; it's the
told
senior
the senior
discount.
discount.
which
The
is
senior
different
discount,
from the
that's right.
junior discount, which we will never again.
Forget
I
it.
see.
We're live.
It's
BJ.
however you spin it.
They're saying hi.
Hi, BJ.
She says hi, but she's not poking her head in.
I remember describing Dune to my friends, and I'm sorry out there for all the Dune fans because I appreciate it. Dune's not my thing. Somebody asked like, "What was Dune?" I'm like, "Okay, the spaceships, giant worms, the sand ninjas, and they're out there kung fuing in the rocks." And he's like, "Really?" And I'm like, "That's what I got out of it. Sorry." I'm like, "Sorry."
You know, I know it got some shade, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Now I'm a big fan of the book. I like the book better, but I enjoyed the movie.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
enjoyed
I had,
it. I just
yeah, I
wish
had
it
fun
wasn't
with it.
so dark.
I went
Yeah.
with it on Sunday. I went to see it a second time, and I went with a friend who was a huge fan, and another friend who
Of the
didn't
book.
know anything about it.
Oh,
And he
Oh,
was
that
like,
cool.
"Okay, guys, what should I know about it?" And my other friend starts talking. Well, there's a lot of stuff in there with the Bene Gesserit and the Quasitz Haderach. And my friend's looking at him like he's starting to have a seizure. And
what
I'm like,
language are you
It's
speaking?
okay if you don't know any of this stuff. They'll either explain it or you can just kind of pass it off and forget
Right.
about it. So
Yeah.
No, we saw the Eternals yesterday on our senior discounts, by the way. We go every Tuesday because it's only $5 a ticket.
Yeah.
Very nice. Oh, what did you think, Barb? Talk to us. What did you think?
Since I never read the Eternals comic book, I was coming into it cold.
There's a reason you didn't read them, by the way.
Yeah. and it was entertaining, but it didn't reach out and like grab me like the
Yeah.
like Spider-Man or Iron Man or the Avengers did. It was
And there's a reason it didn't sell like that,
I
right?
didn't care for the non-linear storytelling.
Okay.
I haven't seen
I
it.
think
Well, I'm not going to give you
No
I'm
spoilers.
not going to give you
Yeah.
any big spoilers, but it jumps back and forth
Yeah.
Okay.
in time to past, present, stuff like that. And I'm not a big fan of non-linear, so that was a drawback for me. But it was entertaining. It was okay.
Is
But
it
I
going to make
wouldn't
you
give it
rush
5
out and
stars.
buy the Eternals comic book or anything?
No,
No. Okay. All right.
she already has them all. Why does she need to go buy them again?
Yeah. I mean,
I
it's
know.
exactly.
And here's the thing.
It was
Tommy
enjoyable.
just says, I don't know anyone that knows those characters, but it looks like a cool movie.
Yeah.
But he's right, though. I mean, how many people... so we've all been in comics for a long, long time. How many people do you know that actually said, oh, Eternals is my all-time favorite comic? I don't know anybody
No.
that ever said
Yeah.
that.
This is
and,
I know,
and
right?
hubby loved it because he says Angelina Jolie was worth the price of admission. So
I can see that. I can
It-
see
it
he's
that.
a guy.
It was funny because it was like my friend was. She doesn't know anything about comics, so she was asking about Eternals. What do you know about them? Anybody who read comic doesn't care about him. Nobody knows anything about him.
No, I know.
It's like we've gone from A-list characters, we skipped the B and C-list characters.
We
Now we're just going
did.
into the F bin.
There's
Now we're just
one
going to binge
D.
people as like I read comics just like Roland, everyone else. Well, I've seen a few comics here and there,
Right.
and even I was going in like I don't know anything about this. I know Jack Kirby made them, or was
Right,
in the hand
yeah.
of
Yeah.
making
That's
them.
really what
That's what
everybody
I
knows,
know.
right?
That's really all I
Yeah.
knew too.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
So
Well,
That's what I told Dick on the way home. He goes, "How have you ever read any of the books? What did you know about them?" I said, "Nothing except the Jack Kirby."
And
Right.
then that
Yeah.
was
Well,
it. That's all I knew.
So I did read a few of them when I was considerably younger, and I'm kind of like, nah, I don't really care. It
Well,
just didn't do it for me,
Jack Kirby was
So-
kind of obsessed with making his little pantheon of gods. I mean, he went and made the New Gods, and I can't remember if he did Eternals or New Gods but he made one, and then he left the company, went to the other company, made Eternals or whatever. Like he made the New Gods, it's like something like that. Like his creations are always about these sort of godlike, sort of.
He
And I
liked the
think he just liked those
pantheon
type
of
of stories.
gods.
Yeah,
Yes.
he liked those type of stories, and so you have the New Gods, which is Darkseid or whatever. And I think he left Marvel after the Eternals. Like, well, I'm going to go to DC, make my other gods. So he made the New Gods, which is his other, like, just the same thing, except it was at DC. Yeah.
somebody
says-
Fruitbat says one person suggested that unlike most modern films, Dune characters actually have reasons for doing the things they do, and all their decisions have repercussions. Well, that's a good observation. I think,
In other
when you
words,
got
it's well written.
It's well written. Yeah,
well-written story.
it's actually a
And-
story.
Yeah, and you also have a really a director who's a big fan, and try to make sure he was as true to the original material as possible. But back to Eternals for a moment, I felt the same way like when Marvel announced, "Hey kids, we're gonna make a movie of Guardians of the Galaxy," and everybody's like, "What?"
Whatever.
I mean,
Yeah.
why? Right?
And without
you
that
know,
soundtrack, you wouldn't be hearing about that movie.
I mean, seriously, I know I'm with
I
you on
don't
this.
know.
You and I
don't know about
One
that,
monster,
yeah.
Powerful presence.
That
don't know.
soundtrack is a publicity stunt to sell that whole story. But that being set aside, it's odd how these producers, they're just like, hey, you know what? We're gonna go through the encyclopedia of characters here and
Right.
just find something that's
E was
completely
next,
non
right?
sequitur. It's like
Yeah.
nobody reads that,
Yeah.
So what are you doing? But they made some money on it, so obviously
It
what do I
was
know?
it was definitely weird, some of the characters they're choosing. I can't want to give away any spoilers, but even at the end, some of the characters that are coming in, I was like, really?
Well,
Like-
I think everybody's read all over the internet who
I have not.
Oh, okay.
I'm not.
Do you want me
All
to
right.
leave the room for a minute?
I don't think it's going to be that huge of a surprise to you, or even worth your time. To
We
even
won't
hear
say it. We won't say it.
Yeah.
Dean will
Um,
find it cool.
Yeah.
Will I find it cool?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so.
Ah,
Yeah.
I'm
The
intrigued.
Eternal. When somebody asked me like, why'd they make that one girl, the Sprite girl, so young, and I'm like, because they're mean. I guess she's got the mind of an adult. She's in the body of a kid. And you talk
And you know
about
what
the
that
most.
reminded me of? It reminded me of Interview with a Vampire, where they turn
Yeah.
The little
Kirsten
girl
Dunst.
vampire. She's always stuck in the little girl body, and she hates it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm just sitting there
Yeah.
going, like, she's got to be the most frustrated person on planet Earth. And like at the end, I was just, I'm not gonna give any spoilers, but I was like, no wonder she's so angry. I mean, wouldn't you be angry if you were stuck? I'm like, I just want somebody to love me. Too young.
Yeah.
Too young.
Bill Willingham did that in Fables with
Pinocchio, didn't he?
Pinocchio. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. This is an interesting observation from Fruitbat 36.
Oh,
Kirby
was
was
he doing
attempting
that?
to grapple with the understanding of the Bible, and he tried to encapsulate and embody the big ideas in Eternals and New Gods. Yep. That's definitely evident in the
Well, we
material.
got Dark Side, so that was worth it.
Yeah,
I like Dark Side.
Yeah.
we did get Dark Side. Aaron and I being the rare few here that like Zack Snyder's Justice League better than the other stuff.
Oh,
But
I liked it. I thought it was great.
Awesome.
And it's funny because Darkseid's part of the New Gods, but you rarely hear about the other New Gods. They've actually just kind of like separated Darkseid out as his own little entity.
Yeah.
I mean, in the comics they still mention it, but rarely do you ever see him. He's just kind of like Darkseid's this evil guy. He's part of another race of God, but we
Yeah,
don't really talk about that.
We don't talk about that.
Yeah.
We did talk about the fact that we're getting to the end of our broadcast tonight, and we do want to thank everybody for tuning in, and we also want to thank our sponsor, Daytona Beach Comic Convention, and I'll defer to our fearless leader Roland to offer some plugs for our latest books. Talk to us, Roland. What do people need to check out?
Absolutely. So fulfillment is happening with Kalis. Tommy's on here. He might drop me a line as to the status, but we should start seeing shipping of that stuff real soon. I'm not gonna give a date, but real soon. We're still waiting on the funds for the Christmas special. That book is still available in demand on Indiegogo. So if you did not get in on the initial Kickstarter and the Indiegogo campaigns, you can still jump over there. Now, the thing I will say about this, the later you wait, we cannot guarantee that you're going to get your books by Christmas. That was a guarantee that we kind of had for everyone who pledged initially. You'll get them. But the later you wait, we may not be able to get your printed copies to you in time for Christmas. We're pretty good right now. So if it's something you want for Christmas, get out there and pledge it right now. And as we said earlier, what did I say? 102 pages worth of Christmas goodness.
Yes,
it's going to be fun. I think I'm the only one in the entire group that's read every single story, and I will tell you, you guys are going to absolutely love what you see in this book, and you guys as well, because y'all haven't seen them. There's some amazing stories in this Christmas special, and I'm excited to put it in the hands of the readers. So and then in just a week or so, depending on when I can get the thumbs up from Kickstarter, we are going to launch Twilight Grim #3 and White Devil #1. So two new books, as Barb said earlier. There's no rest for the wicked. And so we're just going to keep on keeping on, and we've already got books on the slate for January as well. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the books.
That's pretty much it. And as we like to say, as we close out our broadcast, everyone likes to say, make mine
Silverline.